Offensive line play is the backbone to good offense. Why the blind side could be the difference between a middling Iowa offense and a run at the college football playoffs for the Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. I've been covering the Iowa Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio in the state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network with our flagship in Des Moines, 106.3 KXNO, along with stations in Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, the Quad Cities, and Sioux City. You can hear me each weekday talking the world of sports from noon to 2 with Ken Miller. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We are stacked up here as it is that time of year. Rearview mirror for spring football, yet so much to get into as we take a look back at the offensive line and our position spotlight today. We are going to talk about the Iowa baseball team, what they have coming up this week, a midweek game against UIC that was incredibly important just not to lose. Well, they don't have to worry about that anymore. And it looks like maybe a big recruiting miss for Iowa basketball in the portal on the men's side of things. Plus, we'll be joined by Scott Dockerman from The Athletic, talking all things Hawkeyes and his experience inside a Carver-Hawkeye arena on Sunday with the return of Caitlin Clark. But we begin today with football talk, and we talk about the offensive line. Of course, offensive line play through the 26 years of Kirk Ferentz has been at the forefront of the conversation. That is where Kirk Ferentz got his start. That is where he began his career as a line coach at the University of Iowa, coming in after his short run at Pittsburgh. And what he is known for is offensive line play. And of course, we think back to the beginning tenure, turning guys like Bruce Nelson into just absolute behemoths. Robert Gallery, turning those guys that were tight ends at the high school level and building them into what they are. And you look at the lineage of offensive line play. But a dirty little secret during the course of the Iowa tenure is as great of individual offensive lineman there has been. And of course, the stall mark and the high water mark of that 2002 offensive line, well, that was 23 years ago, by the way. There haven't been that many elite level offensive lines for Iowa. Even as good of individual pieces that they've had, it has been incredibly difficult to find a cohesive group. And yet you look at last season and it felt like a corner was turned with the offensive line. So today we are going to look at some of the candidates and some of the guys coming in and talk about what this offensive line can be, the growth that we saw during spring football, and what this is going to look like when we get into August and into September and the beginning of the college football season, and what the O-line is going to look like. You start, I think, with the headline of this spring period, and that was the addition of Bryce George. Bryce George comes in from Ferris State, a high-level kid, and the question is going to be right away with him. As we've talked about, and you everydayers here on Locked On Hawkeyes, you know all about that, is can he play left tackle? Is this more of a depth piece? Is this a guy that is anticipated to start? Do they look at him as a guy that's just going to step in and be a day one left tackle for them? That is the question that none of us know. And honestly, I don't know if the coaching staff really knows that. That transition, even for a veteran player like Bryce George, it is significant taking that leap forward. I also do wonder if Iowa looked at it, if this is also something maybe to do with Jennings Dunker and the injury and the surgery that he is going. They anticipate that he's going to be gone, but more than anything, just some insurance, knowing if it's not Jennings Dunker, they don't have depth at the tackle position that they're going to be able to afford to go into a season, really with maybe only 2 tackles on the roster. And that very well could be the case with the way that they're currently constructed. So I think there are a couple of main reasons for the addition of Bryce George and what he's going to look like coming in. The hope, though, obviously, he can be your left tackle. You get another year of development at the left tackle position for Trevor Lauk, and you're able to go from there. Look, Lauk, I think, is going to get there. I think he is going to be a tremendous player, but just being able to give him another year of development, understanding that he's going to be that number 3 guy this season. He'll be the tackler. Jack Dotzler and him fought for the job, and from what I heard, though it was close, the upside of Lauk very well could be the difference maker between those two guys. You look at the interior, obviously, this offensive line, you're in good shape. And Logan Jones it was a struggle early on. Moved over from the defensive line position. I think a lot of people thought maybe it was going to look just like Tyler Linderbaum, and it didn't. That's okay. He has grown, he's developed, and I think there's still, for some parts of the fan base, there's still memories of that first season, the struggles that he had snapping the football, the number of exchange problems, shotgun problems that they saw from Logan Jones, and I think that still lives in the heads of a lot of people. He's grown, he's developed, and he is excellent. He very well could be one of the best centers in college football. And he would start with an offensive line with one of certainly the best handful of centers in the country, the best right tackle in the country in Jennings Dunker, if healthy. That's a pretty darn good starting point to go with that as your top two guys. We talked about the left tackle spot. We'll see how George fits in here between Dotzler and Lauk. You're feeling good about that. And there's a lot of other intriguing prospects on the other interior spots and the maneuvering that they're going to have to do. Let's say Trevor Lauk. Maybe they find out that he is going to be our left tackle of the future, but the here and now is Bryce George. Who's not to say that he's not able to come inside? And one thing that George Barnett does a really good job of, another guy that's been much maligned in his early tenure of the offensive line coach, one thing that he does, though, is he really coaches these guys up and giving them the flexibility to play multiple positions. That's not the case all over the place. And you are a lot of times kind of pigeonholed in, and they'll move guys around because of injury and because of necessity. But one thing that you see from him is there is a real development that they work on of understanding not just your right tackle and that's it, being able to play inside, outside, having the knowledge base of the different position groups. And it goes hand in hand with what Coach Lester now is trying to do with this offense and now taking that step forward. It's not going to matter if you can't protect the quarterback. That offense and the passing game that we think is going to take that big step forward this year, it doesn't matter if you can't block. A couple other names we want to talk about here on the offensive line, starting with Cade Peeper. Now, Cade Peeper is still only listed at 6'3", 275. For an interior offensive lineman in today's day and age, that is still small. There are people that say he's bigger than that he's going to be more in that 290 range by the time that the season begins. And that's what you're hopeful for, because that's been another component of offensive line that I think sometimes is overlooked. There are guys that come in, tremendous upside, and eventually they hit a block where they just can't add the weight, that their body physically just cannot put on that much more weight. The anticipation, though, he's going to be on one side at the guard position, and on the other side is Bo Stevens. A veteran, he's huge, 6'6", 322. He's played at a high level. You're in really good shape. I mean, when you've got Dunker and Stevens out there, 6'5", 316 for Dunker, 6'6", 322 for Stevens, maybe that'll help out Peeper a little bit if it does play out in that fashion. A couple other things to look at and a couple other names. Leighton Jones, interior guy from Indiana. He came in the same class as Trevor Lauk, kind of that 1-2 combo from the state of Indiana. He looks like he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to help out in the future, and he's going to be certainly part of the rotation, I think, of this season. A walk-on, something that is becoming a rarity, unfortunately, for Iowa football. Cale Winter has done some good things. Kid from Waukee Northwest that has been there. And maybe the most intriguing name for me, just because you're rooting for good stories, is Michael Lozinski. So he came in out of high school, Florida kid, had a Texas offer at one time. I mean, this was a big-time get for Iowa football. Well, he's never been healthy. And finally, a year ago, he was finally healthy enough to be able to practice a lot. And he saw the upside. He saw what Iowa saw and a bunch of other programs saw out of him coming out of high school. It would be great to see Myslinski be able to have at least a healthy senior year and be part of the mix here, be able to help out and hopefully finally break through and get out on the field and play some meaningful minutes, because that is a story I'll keep an eye on. And then a couple other young names to keep an eye on. Josh Janowski from Illinois, redshirt freshman this year, a redshirted last season along with Will Nolan. Those are a couple ones to keep an eye on. Cody Fox, he's been banged up. A guy, though, that had some big-time offers himself. Don't see a lot of kids from East Buck get some big-time offers, but that was the case. And then developmentally, Lucas Elgire coming in from St. Louis. He is going to be a guy, speaking of that tackle position, that they definitely need to pop next season. The offensive line looks to be in good shape. You have to figure out left tackle. That is going to be the driving question. That will remain still one of the biggest questions going into August, what they're going to do there. Speaking of the future, going forward, remember, the class of 2026. Iowa already has commitments from 5 players in the class, couple of 4 stars in there. Hudson Parliament from South Dakota, of course, the Waterloo kid, Carson Nielsen. Those 2 guys are going to be, you would hope, impactful guys, but it's offensive line. It takes some time to marinate, to build those guys up, but that is certainly the future of Iowa football. So there is our post-spring look at the offensive line and where the Hawkeyes are here as we look forward to the 2025 season. We're going position by position here over the next couple of weeks and talking about each position group, diving in a little bit deeper and getting that baseline as we make our way through the spring here after spring football has wrapped up. Coming up next, we go back to Carver-Hawkeye Arena. Scott Dockerman from The Athletic. He was there. We'll talk about Caitlin Clark's return, his perspective of what he saw, what he heard, and what this can be going forward for the women's basketball program. Scott Dockerman from The Athletic joins us next. Locked On Hawkeyes. Well, the NBA playoffs are in full swing every night, delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I'm taking a look here coming up this evening. My Timberwolves in action as they face off in the second round going up against the Warriors. Put it together. How about a same game parlay? Maybe you like Ant-Man to jump out there over 30 points. Combine points, rebounds, and assists. He can do that well. Draymond Green. Does he make a three-pointer? These are the kind of things that you can build and put it all together. How about this? 200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time for you to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Hello, Scott Dockerman, Trenton Ken. Thanks for coming on. Fair to say that the fans felt like they got their money's worth, whatever they paid for their seats. Fair?
No, never. I mean, when you're talking about paying that kind of money for an exhibition.
Right, that part, that's
laughable. Crazy. But, you know, it was an entertaining exhibition, no question. Finally, you know, you get to see Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan in her home element. I think that's pretty impressive. And she did give everybody a nice parting gift there at the end of the third quarter with that 36-foot three-pointer right next to her logo. I mean, that's just, that's poetic. That's something that there's one of one who can do that. Well, maybe Steph Curry can do that, but she's the only other one. And for her to do that and the manner she did was just unbelievable.
It really was. And I guess a culmination of just everything coming together. She mentioned post-game, hadn't played a basketball game, a real basketball game in over 200 days. And
for her,
to come back and have it be like that, sat out the exhibition game on Saturday and come out and put together that kind of performance. Doc, taking this a step further, and I want to equate it back to the here and now for the women's basketball program. I think they built that bridge. Year number 2 now for Jan Jensen, the importance, the class of 2026, they are on some elite level prospects. They bring in Addie Deal this year, but the importance of kind of seizing the moment. I equate it back, and young people won't know what we're talking about. Cheryl Swoops at Texas Tech, national champion, and that program after she left became and also ran. Taking this and continuing it, very important offseason it feels like for Jan Jensen of continuing the momentum here going into year number 2.
I think that's true. I mean, you do want to capitalize on momentum, and that's a very short supply when you're talking about athletics, because most people, in particular, you know, like football and men's basketball, only remember about a year, and then it goes away very, very quickly. I think women's basketball may have a little more staying power because a lot of those prospects were there when they played USC, and then they've seen this crowd and they see that, you know, Caitlin Clark is somebody that's not just going to fade away and people are going to forget about her. I mean, her profile continues to grow, and the fact that she's from Iowa and everybody knows she's from Iowa and she talks about it, I think is going to be helpful to this program. in the short term and long term. But I think, as important as anything, it's their performance on the floor. They've got to make sure that it continues to be successful, and getting to the NCAA tournament and winning a game a year after you lose the best player, if certainly in Iowa history and probably Big Ten history and arguably in NCAA history. I think that, to be able to do that and to climb out of the depths that they did with a brand new coach, replacing 4 starters, it speaks well of the program. So I think anytime you get yourself in front of the spotlight the way they did yesterday and still, have a sold out arena and raucous and loud. And I talked to Kelsey Mitchell afterwards, and she's like, "I felt like a Hawkeye today." That's an Ohio State player. Right, yeah. So I think that speaks well for the program.
Yeah, no doubt it clearly does. Scott Dockerman joining us from The Athletic. Doc, did she have media training? I'm talking about Caitlin Clark. She's so polished, whether it be pre or post. And I know obviously she's getting used to it now, and she's certainly getting the opportunities. But she just doesn't miss, Doc. She's so good. Do you know, was that part of when, maybe her early days at the University of Iowa? Do you have any idea?
Well, every athlete, particularly in the major sports, that deals with media training to some extent. Now, it varies from person to person how well most of them, the more they're in the spotlight, the better they get at it. They kind of understand the role and how to play. Sometimes early on, it's very difficult for them. In her case, yeah, she had a little bit, but this is her. That's who she is, and that's why she's leaps and bounds. She's been this way since freshman, sophomore year. She was acting like a professional. Now she acts. I've compared her to her senior year to. She's like an NFL quarterback. Now she's just as polished as any professional person there is. And to do that at such a young age, I mean, she's 23 years old. She can't even rent a car. And yet she's acting like this. She's otherworldly. I mean, I don't know if I'm be around to see it or not, but I wouldn't be a damn bit surprised if at some point she becomes the first billionaire women's athlete. That she's LeBron, she's Tiger, she's all of the above.
Doc, moving from the women's side, let's go over to the men's side. Contract details he had last week from Ben McCollum. Had an article up on The Athletic about that. Anything surprise you? Anything jump off the page when it comes to that contract for McCollum and what it's going to look like for him? I just thought more than anything, knowing that there were other suitors for Ben McCollum, felt like Beth Getz got kind of a good deal, it felt like, on that contract.
Yeah, she didn't have to pay a lot. I mean, comparatively to Tom Izzo or something making $7 million a year. But then again, Tom Izzo is the winningest coach in Big Ten history. So I guess you got to take that with a grain of salt. But I didn't see anything that made me surprised by, whether it's, some of the details. I think the fact that he has $2 million to use for his staff is a good number. And he can, spread it around 4 coaches and other people. And I think that's good. I know that they've got several openings, and they're different openings than Fran had. So they're getting more people in the building, whether that's good or just, too many people, that remains to be seen. But I think right now that they seem to be in, the contract is, self-explanatory. It's a 6-year deal, $3.6 million to start, or 3.35. I'm sorry, and then it goes up to 4.1, I believe it is, at year 6. But let's face it, if he gets to year 3 and he's doing well, it'll be a different number than year 4. So which is what it should be. Doc,
back to the women for a second. You put on your X feed today. I know you wrote about it at The Athletic as well. It was great. Yeah, yesterday was wonderful in an exhibition game, but it really wasn't very. Competition was lacking, fair to say. And I'm not asking for a Game 7 type atmosphere, but your suggestion was, and I think that the W is going to plan on doing more of these events. They saw Asia Wilson and Angel Reese and what Iowa obviously did yesterday. Get the Lynx and the Fever to play an exhibition game, and why not do it in downtown Des Moines at Wells Fargo? I mean, I don't want it to be the intensity of a regular season game, but just something that's a little bit more competitive. Do you think that that's an opportunity that this happens, that the league capitalizes on the box office appeal that she has and tries to maybe, move it around a little bit?
I think it's a perfect opportunity, and this is a league that now is seeing a major surge in interest, and it started obviously with Caitlin and is just continuing to go off the charts. That you look at the environment you saw at Carver-Hawkeye yesterday, and you want to capitalize on that and grow it. And I think I just threw it out there as more of a suggestion, but if you were to play, I mean, the Lynx is the closest team to Des Moines. I mean, the Sky are the closest team to Iowa City.
Mm-hmm.
Although I eliminated this for my column. I said, that the Sky are about as popular among Clark's fans
yeah, right.
as a 5 o'clock traffic jam. So that you're not going to get that. But I mean, Des Moines, that's her hometown.
Mm-hmm.
You guys live there, you know what it is. And so that's another venue and another way to bring, like and Caitlin Clark to the heartland or the Midwest or whatever you want to say. And then to continue that, I mean, with the Lynx being so close, I think you could have not only a competitive game, but, if you're the Lynx, you could use that, market yourself to maybe the Iowa State fans that may not want to
right.
like the Caitlin Clark, because isn't Bridget Carlton?
She is.
With the
yeah.
Lynx? Yeah. So you can kind of see it being mutually beneficial to both teams, and then the city of Des Moines, of course, and then have the Caitlin Clark element being in her hometown. I think they're close enough to her hometown that I think this would be a tremendous opportunity to take it a step further. Or, and the other part is, now that they're expanding the schedule, that wouldn't be the worst idea to do it as a one-off regular season game.
Right.
A neutral site game for a day. I mean, in the middle of July, instead of playing, in Minneapolis, maybe move a game to Des Moines against the Fever. You could sell it out and promote yourselves. I think there are all kinds I think there's plenty of opportunities there for the W to expand.
Have the Chicago Sky maybe play a neutral court game in New Orleans, get the Angel Reese fans there from LSU. Yeah, a lot of different things that you could do, and I like that one. Hey, Doc, I know you talk a lot to Chantel Jennings, who's part of The Athletic, and a lot of the people. I know they're one of the betting favorites, if not the betting favorite, depending on the book, for the Fever. What have they said? Do you think this is a real championship contender? We know that Caitlin Clark, because of that, she's going to get a lot of the public interest and a lot of betting money there. Do you see them as title favorites here this season?
I think they're they look much vastly different.
Sure did.
I saw them beat a team by 1,000 points yesterday. When they introduced the Iowa women, and I think at halftime, it was like 70-24 at that point. I said, Iowa goes out there, it's like 51-28.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they would beat them that bad. But that being said, I talked to several players just on the side about their what they're seeing. I talked to Sophie Cunningham, Kelsey Mitchell, and it just seems to me that they are more focused. This is a much better team, and of course, coaching is 15 times better with Stephanie White there. That I think you can see that now they have players with roles, and they're deep. Does that mean they're going to be a champion? You know what? I don't know. I think they're going to be very competitive. I mean, New York Liberty is great. I think the Aces kind of moved some people around and lost Kelsey Plum, but I still think they're, a very competitive team. And who knows if somebody else emerges at some point. But I would not be at all surprised to see the Fever at least be in the semifinals, and if not the finals this year. They just have a different vibe about them than they did a year ago.
And as we know, by September, King football's back, and to have Caitlin Clark on the biggest stage in the sport certainly wouldn't hurt. Doc, great stuff as always. We will speak with you in 2 weeks, but before that, what do you got coming up in the this week at The Athletic that Trent and I, as subscribers, and everybody else listening to the sounds of our voice that subscribes to The Athletic, will be able to read?
Tomorrow, and I'm thrilled this is finally going to come out. I have a story on Iowa State and how it grew from being maybe one of the worst, the most challenged athletic departments in college sports, major college sports 30 years ago, to now being potentially the kings of the Big 12, and how it's positioned itself in a long, organic way. It grew its fan base. So I think this is something that, Iowa State fans hopefully like. And I've got that. And I'm also putting the final touches on a story on Illinois football. And we'll have some on Iowa's offense, although I'm not sure what day that will run.
Good stuff, Scott Dockerman. Talk to you in 2 weeks. Thank you, Scott, as always.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Dockerman from The Athletic, talking all things Iowa Hawkeyes and a deep dive into Caitlin Clark. Appreciate Doc's time. We roll through here, Locked On Hawkeyes, your team every day. And it's time to talk a little basketball. Is it a recruiting miss for Ben McCollum? That's next. Locked On Hawkeyes. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with the marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with the freelance expert who delivered incredible results. And instead of hiring somebody full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. As a small business owner, I know it's incredibly difficult to find those right people and to do it at a cost that helps you out. Upwork is right there for you. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Yesterday, we talked about Theus de Ritter, the Belgian kid. THIJS de Ritter, that guy. Well, excited we got a day ago. Looks like he might be ending up at Virginia. So cross that one off the list. Another big, and Iowa likely turns their attention back to what they're going to be doing maybe at the guard spot. We'll see if anything else pops. But one thing that I've loved watching during this portal season is Coach McCollum. You see some of the prospects that they're involved with, and you can kind of see, the justification behind it, the reasoning that they're going after a number of these players and how they fit into what Iowa's going to be next season. It's amazing to see Iowa basketball continually showing up on the radar, preseason top 25s, NCAA tournament brackets, those kind of things next season with basically a completely new team. But that is the belief that people have nationally about Ben McCollum and the job that he's going to do as the Iowa basketball coach. One final thing, and this is on the baseball front, as Iowa baseball loses a series for the first time in a long time this weekend as they fall out at Washington. Huge opportunity coming up this week. Oregon State comes into town, a top 10 team, big opportunity for Iowa. You win that series, going to go a long way into solidifying themselves as an NCAA tournament team. However, they were supposed to play this week. In fact, they're supposed to play today out at Illinois, Chicago. Beautiful ballpark. Curtis Granderson put a bunch of money in there to develop that thing, and the decision was made to cancel the game. Now, I know there was a lot of people out there that thought it was Iowa ducking UIC because of the issues they've had recently against Illinois State, against Western Illinois, that it was them just ducking a non-conference game, something that could hurt them in the RPI. And I understand the thought process behind that. However, Iowa didn't get back from Seattle until Monday morning at like 5 a.m. Kyle Huseman from On3 and Hawkeye Report mentioned that Iowa didn't return until very early in the morning. On top of it, UIC had to get a special exemption just to play this game because it's their finals week. So there was a lot going on. The coaches came together, made the decision to cancel the game, and that's okay. Because of Iowa's issues in the midweek game, there was nothing to be gained for Iowa in playing this game. Even a win isn't going to do anything for them. A loss, though, very well could be devastating. Not a bad thing the way this played out. Now you get ready. Don't have to worry about using any arms in the middle of the week. you are full bear, ready to go this week in Des Moines, Principal Park, as the Hawkeyes come to town. Still tickets available for that one. Get on out, support the Hawkeyes. I know people like myself here in the capital city excited when Iowa comes to town, and certainly make this a big showcase event. This is something that is incredibly cool and something that you can build upon. Show the success that Coach Heller has done this year with this group that didn't come in with expectations, yet they still sit atop the Big Ten. Quite the run for Iowa baseball. Let's continue it against the Beavers this week. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network, your team every day. A shout out to you everydayers with us each and every day. Couldn't do it without you. Big thank you to all of you out there for helping us out and hitting that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube, or a 5-star review on the podcast side. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entry, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape and the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Back with you tomorrow. We'll continue our look at the position groups of football and a whole lot more. Your team every day. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Until tomorrow, go Hawks.